Welcome to Leaf Sales with Ian Nethercott and Larry Feldman live.
If you look at the last 4 years again, we've answered 41 million phone calls for dealers over the last 4 years with our AI platform. We've also handled over 150 million text messages. And so when you look at just those raw numbers, that's a 4-to-1, 3.5, 4-to-1 text to phone call. So I don't know. Here's what I can tell you, though. I believe that the customer wants to be met where they are presently. If that is text, voice, video call, if they want to be engaged and engaged instantly.
I've been fortunate enough to be using Numa since square one, but my opinion, I like to meet the customers where they are, because if I choose my preference in terms of how I want to communicate with people, I'm going to eliminate a large portion of my potential customers. The customer calls in from the outside. There doesn't have to be a person on the other side of the conversation, and it will be a transcribed, recorded transcription of the message, which is important, and it's real time, 365 days a year. So we don't lose anything. The customers that prefer the phone and the customers that prefer the text may be two different people, but the nice thing about like Numa as an example is you got both of those people in one spot.
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.
Recording in progress.
If you're interested in a Mr. Stillman interview, I just made it live. I did it like 40 days ago, but it's done. And if you're a car salesperson and you want to learn about a strong woman selling cars, Cadillac, she's out of Nashville, Tennessee. She's sold 25 cars using video and the internet last month. So I put her name's Andrea. So I put up her interview, which is pretty short as well. And one more interview coming, which is about replacing keys using Costco's partner program, which is kind of interesting if you ever lose car keys. So I'm going to be putting that up. They do. I learned a bunch of stuff about keys that I didn't know. So if you want to know how to save money if you lose keys, or if you got multiple people in your household, I didn't realize you could add more keys to most cars. So if you have like a kid driving your car, like you could add a set of keys, and it's pretty inexpensive to do that. And I think Costco is a partner program with this company North America wide. So
you have to be a member of Costco to do that, right?
Well, you save a lot of money, so you might want to look at it.
Yeah.
Like it's
I don't even know where it is.
And they can do it in about 20 minutes.
Oh.
For most cars.
Okay,
which
good
is
to know.
Kind of interesting. So that interview I'm editing now, so I should have that up later on. But we're talking about spring, and the weather's finally cooperating, at least where I am at, so that's good.
Not here.
Haven't seen any snow in a couple of days, so that's good news. It's very warm today, so I'm happy about that. But how's everyone else's spring going? I mean, I know Sandy's in the warm and hot weather. Mike, how's the spring where you're at?
You know what? We had April 16th where it was over 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And by Friday.
Oh, you're logging. You're breaking again this week.
It was, man.
Go ahead.
But it was 28 degrees.
So
it's 90 to 28.
But they had to bring their plants in. Everybody was afraid. And a lot of people, if they left their plants out, it was a freeze.
It is too early for plants. Never before Mother's Day, and I actually don't do anything until Memorial Day.
And for your vegetable garden, that is the right thing. If you're gonna have a good.
I mean, unless it's a perennial. Annuals cannot be out right now.
Yeah.
And what's your feeling, Sandy, where you are? Is it warmer than normal or not, or what?
I mean, it's
Florida.
Well, it's Florida, but it's starting to get hot now. But which is pretty normal, but our weather has not been normal. I mean, not really.
Yeah.
It, but I'm chopped down some trees this weekend and I'm cleaning them up.
So
I have a tree problem too.
Oh my God. We have these carrot trees. I don't know if you know what these things are.
A carabin?
No,
Carrot?
they're called carrot trees. Why, I don't know.
Oh,
So they
never
grow
heard of that.
carrots?
No, they do have like this little fruit thing that
Mhm.
comes off of it, and it's very heavy. They're just super invasive and they grow so fast. So I have solar panels on my house.
Mhm.
On either side, and it was like blocking the sun, so we chopped them down. It was we're still working. It was a lot of work.
And Larry, how's the weather in Philly?
A little chillier than what you would expect. We went through what Mike and Gary went through. We had a day where it was 90, and we thought, wow, okay, it's early summer and spring, and then I think it's been a little erratic, but you can't complain because
I'm still wearing my shirts.
it's cold, but the Midwest is getting severe weather and tornadoes,
Yeah.
crazy stuff. So a little hard to complain. And I've broken it up a little bit because the last few weeks I've been in Georgia and Florida. So hey, look at well, I think Mark Twain's the one that said everybody complains about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. So what are you going to do?
So what's your opinion on spring in the car business? Do you think that's going to impact car sales, being that we've had weird weather all year? Do you think that'll impact manufacturers or sales in general?
I think a lot of people are scrambling.
Yeah.
I can't think of too many people, and if you folks disagree, hey, Christian, glad to see you out, man. Your shoulder okay?
You're muted.
I'm okay. I've had rotator cuff surgery on both shoulders. That was pretty major. This one was a little bit of it was a slight tear and what they call a cadaver augmentation, which is they put a dead person's rotator cuff in me.
Oh,
So,
okay.
there you
I was like, what?
Thanks for sharing.
go. I'm on the mend. Yeah.
Before I commented on Christian's health, I was going to say, I don't hear too many dealers bragging about how well they do.
Okay.
I think I'm hearing more people complain that business is off than business is fabulous. Is everybody else feeling kind of the same thing? Obviously, the smarter you are, the better you're doing. But I'm not hearing a plethora of people saying, "Yeah, it's great out there."
No one's got that extra zip saying that things are good and we're selling a lot of something, whether pre-owned or new. You're not hearing it. It's
Gary, they're gonna have to come out at some point with leases. It makes sense.
sure.
It'll make some of the inequity go away. Hopefully let's face it, I don't care how good we are as salespeople and how sincere we are and how much we build value and rapport. It's just hard to close people on 800 or 900.
Well,
For years and years and years, I was a Cadillac guy, and it was always the same thing. I want to pay $250 or $300. And we build enough value and we come up with $550 and we're happy.
Yeah.
But 800 or 900, it's a lot of money for a payment. I don't care how you slice it.
Well, we were doing some talk on Monday about payments, and yeah, I mean, I remember when I sold cars, it'd be like people come in at 250. Like, so you're looking for a car that's 10 grand? They'd be like, what? I'm like, well, 10 grand divided by 60 months. It's like, depending on the interest, you're pretty much there. Oh no, I'm thinking like a $30,000 car. Okay, let's talk about leasing.
I wasn't there for the original.
Yeah.
We became a Hyundai dealer in 1990.
Okay.
They came into the country in 1986. Unfortunately, the same year the Yugo came in.
Pony.
And if you all remember, or if any of you remember, the Hyundai Excel, it was prior to the Accent, was a $7,500 car.
Yeah.
Brand new.
Yep.
Those days long gone.
Yeah.
Well, when I worked for Nissan, they had a car not that long ago, about 10 years ago now, had a car called the Micra. Okay. This car retail price, starting price was $10,000. So at least on that was like $150.
Hey, Lair, I sold Hyundais in '93. I was working for Herb Chambers, and we were having a great time selling Hyundais. And we had the Hispanic market. Hyundai was very strong on the island in Puerto Rico. The migration was well into Connecticut, and we served the Hispanic population. And
Plus the rebate made it a great special finance car.
and what as we grew, we were able to buy the program cars, so the Mirages, and we had Mitsu. So we had Hyundai, Mitsu, and Mazda. And that was a great market. And there used to be a lot of competition back then. You don't see it. Everybody took the conservative route over COVID. I think they all managed, and a lot of them did a good job just bringing in the reins, and they became nice dealers. But they lost the aggressiveness of being dealerships that are fighting for market share, that are fighting for business. And what I've witnessed is that the used car dealers in the greater Hartford market picked up that business, and they're selling that mid-range used cars. And the franchise dealers let that get out of their hands. And those should be dominating with their program cars in their market. So I see an opportunity where, the dealers can focus on, number one, their brand and being the best in the market with their brand. So that motivates. But let's get the used car business going, because, a franchise dealer has better financing options than the independent used car stores, and they know how to recondition the cars, and they have the parts, and they're not looking for it. But that should be a big opportunity now, because I'm not seeing anyone coming. They've let the big players come in, the CarMaxes and the Carvanas, and if they want to combat, they have to work.
But what do you think? What do you think about a manufacturer doing something real bold, like saying, "Hey, we're going to do a $10,000 rebate and 0% lease for 36 months." Whoever does
the market,
whoever does it first is going to dominate.
They'd own the market. They'd own the market, and everybody would go and they would jump all over it. It was kind of like a Hyundai program when Hyundai said that, what was it? If you lost your job, it was a walk away. So they did a marketing campaign when the economy was turning, and they said, if you lost your job, we'd make your payments. But that is, you would hope that the OEM would take that kind of marketing stance and do something. That would be awesome. That's the stimulus that everybody would love to see.
But what about the used car? What about the used car guys who say, "Hey, we'll lease you the car, third party. The cars are cheaper anyway."
First of all, you need the bank support to do that. I'm old enough to remember when you had used car leasing, and a lot of banks, none of whom are still in business. And I unfortunately think that you're going to see some of these foreign competitors, come up with some cheaper cars, whether they be EV or ICE. I think that's coming.
Well,
it'll be interesting to see what happens as the Chinese enter the market I'm in, because when you look at Mexico, when they entered that market a few years ago, they took about 20% of the market share.
Did they really?
Yeah.
When they came to Mexico, they took 20% of the market share.
20% is now Chinese, so that's Chery, BYD, and others. We're going to see what happens here this year, because they're going to allow, I think, 70,000 cars in the year one, and BYD's already talking about 20 locations to start. So the question then becomes, if I can buy, let's just say a Nissan Leaf is 35,000. I don't know what they are, but let's say it's 35,000. If I can buy a competitive electric car for 25, very similar to the Hyundai comparison with the Pony and the Excel and everything else. If they lease that out, I think the other manufacturers, be it foreign or domestic, are going to have to do something to be competitive. Like they're just gonna those sales got to come from somewhere, right?
So somebody was telling me though that Ford
Mhm.
is already starting to tell their dealers that they're not getting cars because I guess there's a sheet metal shortage.
Yeah.
And because of that sheet metal shortage, they're starting to pull back. And so, you know, that's not a comforting thing to hear from an OEM. I mean, you know, we're not going to be able to provide you with inventory.
Well, they got an
Could be
aluminum
worse,
problem.
Gary.
They got an aluminum
Yeah,
problem.
it could be worse when the Chrysler viewers call the OEM, they directly connect them to the suicide prevention hotline.
It's, yeah, if you're relying on what's the Italian brand that are
Fiat?
Well,
Fiat?
Stellantis.
Well, but what's the Italian car? What is that?
Fiat.
one?
Fiat.
Yeah,
Fiat. Okay, right. I can't even think of. I mean, I remember when they were driving out of the water. They were coming up. That was their first marketing campaign.
Yeah.
They came up. They didn't make a wow here.
I owned one for a while. I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, it's like back in the day, if you ever had a car, if you owned a Peugeot.
Yeah, Peugeot, same thing, same
There
problem.
was only a few people, and they had to have a mechanical background because those things were always broken. Something was broken, and you had to have somebody that knew how to fix them.
Well,
Gary, every British car back then had jumper cables because the electrical systems were always on fritz.
Sandy,
So,
you had
Sandy-
you had a British car story?
No, I do not have a British car story, although I did, when I worked for Wild, we did have a Jaguar story.
Oh yeah.
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
How are you supposed to pronounce it?
Jaguar.
I do
Jaguar.
believe it's Jaguar.
Well, these
Jaguar.
days it's something else because they're different now.
I believe if you can afford it, Sandy, they let you pronounce it any way you want.
But yeah, but I mean, I remember when they came out with like the $35,000 car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was a souped up Ford.
Yeah,
But you know,
that's like
I can't remember if Tata had bought them.
Tata bought them from Ford. Yep.
But
Jaguar
Sandy,
might have-
every franchise,
That's
every
not what I wanted
luxury,
to talk about.
but every luxury maker has just about has made that mistake. I remember when Cadillac decided they would make a more affordable car, and they took Chevy Nova,
Yeah.
rebadged
know,
it, made it the sticker on.
We sold
Lincoln
the
had the
sticker.
Versailles, which was a Nova, and how about when Mercedes did the 190?
Larry, my recollection is that we sold a whole bunch of those to young millennials who were coming up. I think that what the
Jaguar did it right then, but Cadillac and Lincoln, it was such a dismal failure,
Okay.
and it hurt the brand.
what the manufacturer was doing was looking at the spread of generations.
Yep.
And the age groups and what they were doing, and millennials, is the first generation that did not hit the same milestones as their parents.
Yep.
In fact, instead of buying, their and kids today, their biggest purchase is going to be a car, not a house.
Yeah.
But they can live in the car. That's what we used to say. A guy once told me, this Cadillac is more than I paid for my house. He says, you can't drive your house down the street and show your friends. Actually made that sound pretty.
So, but what I was sitting here thinking while I was listening to everybody, like, we're not operating in, the world's not normal right now,
Yeah.
right? Like, we're not in, we're just not. We're in a war that is costing money and could be stopping, because the Strait of Hormuz.
The gas prices that are climbing.
Not just gas. The Strait of Hormuz is not about just fuel.
Yeah.
And oil. It's also about chips. And I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff that goes through there. But not only that, other things like, we're talking about how are dealers doing now. So I'm in Florida, and obviously a big Latino community. And I've heard from some dealers service is 30% down, right? In their high Latin areas, I think Cox reported that, like, since 2010, like, there are some things that I think that, like, and maybe other people are feeling it. I know I'm not buying
Well-
anything right now.
Well, let me
Right?
let
I'm
me give you
not
some
doing
numbers.
it because of how much things cost.
Let me give you
Like,
some numbers, Sandy,
but-
that might help you. So I
What
did.
do you?
I
Well,
did-
how about let me finish?
yeah,
and
go
then-
ahead. Sorry.
Because
Yeah.
I have to go. I can't
No, no, no,
say.
no, no. I just wanted to give you some numbers, but go ahead.
Sure, no, I love numbers, right? I love looking at the stuff, right?
Yeah.
People can't afford things like they used to, or maybe they're afraid of cost rising, right? I think that the what has happened with immigration, it has affected things, and I don't think we've seen it quite yet, right? About what people are going to buy in particular service, because service is where it's at. And I guess that, I've heard that grosses are down, they're really tight, so it is there are some challenges that have, I think like some outside, what's the word I'm looking for? Some outside things that
Factors.
There's
are,
stress in the marketplace. There's
That are
stress in the
contributing.
marketplace.
right? So, I mean, this business will survive. It survived 2008 and 9. And,
Oh, it's where I see it is the separation right now. It's prime for local market leaders is to take market share by giving back to the community and turning around how they've operated. And that's where it's open and there's nobody dominating in certain markets. And that's but that's the auto industry. Is you're supposed to find and when you're in challenging markets, find your niches and go after it. There's still people that want to buy an EV. There's still people that want to buy a used car. There's still I was talking to.
do you think that there's still some from COVID, right? Because we're
Clearly a COVID hangover.
stabilizing, right? We're stabilizing again, kind of going back to what is normal from
The hangover is almost
only what dealers were making during COVID. Maybe that has
but
something. Ian, you had numbers?
Yeah.
And-
Well, I've done a couple polls because I was curious about that. And I've done shows on it. So I did a couple that might give you some insight. One of them's complete and the other one not yet. So the first question was, if you're considering buying a car, what's it about for you? Brand, features, or monthly payment? So that was the first poll I did, which is running now. You can vote on it. There's still a couple days left. Brand features was the number one thing so far. Monthly payment was a strong third, but durability and ownership term was number 2. So if you're a dealer and you're not doing well in service, I think you're doing something really wrong. Because if they're not buying cars, durability is what they're, dealing with their current vehicle. But if they do buy a car, they're going to be asking that question. Like, I'm buying this car. It's more expensive than it's ever been. I got a higher payment. And to Larry's point, yeah, you can drive around and show your friends, but how long am I going to have it? Ownership term. So durability is going to be a big piece. And I think that also means service is going to be the big takeaway this year. If you're not servicing every single car that you sold, there's something wrong in your head. Like, you've got to fix that. So that was the first one.
I think Sandy was referring to the fact
So what?
that
Sorry.
even though it's essential, people are foregoing it just because they don't have the money. Hey, we've seen instances where things get tough where people forego medical treatment because they can't afford it.
So I did another poll on EVs and gas prices to really, and I agree with you, Larry, to again say, okay, how much would things have to cost from a gas point of view for you to even consider an electric car, even if the car was affordable? And basically, of the poll, and it is complete, 67% said I'm never going to electric, no matter what it costs. So I think that's kind of interesting, but a sizable amount was not sure. So that's 17%. The people that said they would if it got expensive enough, and by expensive, I mean $6 a gallon or $8 a gallon. 11% said $6 was the tipping point for them, and $8 a gallon was 5%. it would take $8 for them to even consider it. So I thought that was interesting because, to your point, Sandy, people are like, oh, everything's expensive. But at what point do they stop complaining and take action? I don't know. So that was what I did.
What area did you do the poll though?
It's LinkedIn. So it's North America. You can look at it. The links are there, so you can check it out.
Is it like a LinkedIn poll?
Yep. There's 2 LinkedIn polls. Yep.
Okay.
I'm actually doing another one that's running right now on Chinese EVs, which is interesting just because they're trying to get into the US market. But I just thought, as I've seen a lot of people like Sandy saying, hey, what does that mean for me? And the links are there in the chat if you want to check them out. What does that mean for me? I have the same question. Like, I did a show on Monday about payments, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, you probably got to get ahead of that and say, okay, it's a $50,000 car average. This is your payment.
So
like, does that
we
work?
noticed that there's a 50% uptake over the past 90 days and I'm going to give some of my secret sauces away right now for some of the dealers I've been helping. It's anywhere between 50 to 60%. It's almost 60% on the Mazda brand. People are clicking more and searching more by payment right now this past 3 months than we've seen in the past 2 years. So we've seen an uptake of payment marketing. If we're putting the payments out there, people are clicking on that more than they're paying attention to the price and all the other stuff there. But when I look on the used side and I segment vehicle listing ads, because of the way the prices have come down in general on EVs, EVs are into consideration almost 70% of the time in the general Chicago market. The farther, though, you get away from the city, the less likely that is to even be a consideration. But it has a lot to do with infrastructure. When I was out in Ottawa, there really wasn't the infrastructure for people to buy EVs, but people had them, but even deep in the city, when you talk about the south side of Chicago, those areas are not set up for EV chargers in your home.
Yep.
So you're reliant on public areas to go and charge, and those people are just don't live in the areas that's happening. So, when you're talking about Naperville, heck, you just go around my cul-de-sac, which is kind of like a weird view, and every other household just about has an EV. Somebody has an EV in the garage. But again, it just varies by city and area. When I look at our pay-per-click on the used side, EVs, I've had more clicks for used EVs right now than before, but also there's more of them in the market. And a lot of those hit under the price point of under 35,000. So, for that under 35 segmentation, that's what people are buying right now. So if you have that, regardless if it's an EV or whatever it is, that's what people want to buy. And that's what I get the most activity on. So I switched a lot of my paid advertising onto used. And by doing that, I get more eyeballs on the new, ironically. So, but it's working for me at the different stores, but my stores are so spread out, around the area. So it gives me a good idea of what's happening. But a lot of that data you can find on the back end. I mean, if you have an AutoTrader account and if you have access to Envision, there's so much data there, but most dealers, they never log in and look at it. They don't even have a password. So it's crazy.
David, hi, by the way.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I got my Wokan shirt on.
Nice.
And I gotta go. So I wanted to say goodbye. I didn't just want to.
Oh.
All right.
And I love the conversation. And I did just want to say, where I've seen a lot of EVs?
Where?
Cuba.
Really?
Interesting. China. Yeah, well, there's no gasoline, so you got to do something.
Well, no, prior to what's happening, this was last year. Like, I started taking pictures of all like, what the hell is happening? And so I don't know, because I just looked up what it would cost for me because I have solar panels. I just cut trees down, so now they're going to be working like full steam.
Nice.
And I'm like, maybe I will get an EV, but then how do I get this charger? Well, I gotta get a permit. I gotta get it. Blah, blah, blah.
Well, there's a great comment there that I posted. You can check it out on that survey. It's a guy in a market that's $8 a gallon gasoline, and he has some comments on EVs. Then he's in a market where it's a very, very EV centric. So you can get his opinion. I don't know if I agree with him or not, but it's interesting.
That's everyone to each their own. And you know, I've had people walk in and say,
Buy
I
used,
want to
though.
buy a minivan,
Buy
and they
used
walk in
even.
out with a Corvette. So I mean, it just depends on who, you know, if you meet a salesman. Now that was a rare situation, but I mean, many times people aren't considering a hybrid, and you end
Oh,
up
yeah.
selling them a hybrid.
Well, hybrids are great gas savings. I mean, 30%, pretty
Toyota
dependable.
was so far ahead of the curve with that, Ian.
Oh yeah,
When people were splitting up, they were doing that. They were way ahead. And I recently drove a hybrid on one of my trips.
Yeah.
Great vehicles, and they
Yeah.
kind of bridge the gap between
Yep.
you know both worlds.
I mean, I own two hybrid vehicles when I sold cars, and they were both very, very good vehicles. Fuel economy was ridiculous.
But there's a ton of customers out there talking about reliability, right? Like you said. And what I was hearing, especially on the bigger SUVs, the trucks, is that so many of trucks have gone to 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders. And that everybody's been screaming to say, just bring us back a V8 that lasts. You know, give me a diesel engine that lasts. I mean, I kind of feel for them, and I see where Stellantis is bringing back their V8s on their trucks. Because for a little bit there, you couldn't get any.
On the Rams?
Yep.
And they're doing an inline 6 twin turbo called the Hurricane, which is like 400 horsepower.
Is that to like replace the Hemi or whatever they?
I think they're doing it
No,
as
the
an
Hemi's
option.
back.
They're doing it as an
The Hemi's
option.
back.
They're
Yeah.
putting it in Rams. They're putting it in Jeeps. They're putting it in Wranglers. It's optional, but it's a very high horsepower engine.
You
Inline
just have to
6.
make sure your AI knows that a Wrangler has a V8. I've literally tested over 50 dealerships,
Yeah.
and I've asked their AI agents,
Yeah.
do you have a Wrangler V8?
They do.
And you know what it says? No.
They do. It's available.
The problem is that, you know, if you have to ask it, do you have a Wrangler Rubicon 392 in stock V8? And then the AI will figure it out.
Yeah.
But if you just ask in general, most AIs fail that simple test. And I'm like, how many times do you not even get to sell the car because it's telling the customer you don't have it?
Oh, 100%. When you look at AI, and there's some new research that not only are people using it before they go into a dealership, they're using it at the dealership.
Oh, of course.
So, you know, if you're going to the desk to negotiate a car deal and you're not paying attention, I mean, by the time you come
Well,
back,
they
you
used
could
to
have a
call
whole
it
new
the
problem.
Well, that's when they used to call the other dealership, and they'd
Yeah.
be negotiating right in the showroom floor.
Well, AI is today's Maven.
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't matter to me really, because, you know, if you have a good manager that's fully disclosing stuff and actually selling product, especially in the finance office, and that's your area. But, you know, it always bothers me when I go on a lot of these dealers' websites. You have a digital retailing tool, right? And 90% of them have a payment calculator. You literally go to their sitemap, or you go to the drop down and it says, figure out your payment. And it's not lead gated. So the customer's sitting there at your desk figuring out their payment. Meanwhile, you're going up there and a guy's entering a rate. He's padding it 2 points.
Yeah.
And he's adding $20 worth of room and adding in gap. And you and the customer are apart $40. And now the customer wants another 2G for the trade because they're padding the back end. And the customer eventually catches when you just erode that trust. I mean, and we wonder why we have so many cash deals and credit union deals that happen to us.
I said it, we created monsters because we at one point thought it was a really good idea to control the deal through F&I. And boy, is that a backfiring on everybody right now, because that is the biggest challenge in every dealership right now. The dealer doesn't want to give up the gross. He loves the gross. They love the gross. But the shot across the bow is you better play by the rules fast and furious, or you're going to be exposed. And digital and AI, whether AI is working or not, it's digital. There's footprints now.
Yeah.
So pay attention to the marketing. Don't do dumb things fast.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, you can that's going to be in the ether, and eventually that's going to show up in when they start searching for a car the next time. because it'll all that stuff will be, you know,
all
curated
gonna
and served
be-
up. Right?
They're gonna ask who's the most reputable dealer to buy this car from.
Yep.
And I mean, it'll be specific. And then if from you guys, if it's there, then they find it, there's a connection. How nice is that? That could be a potential deal.
So I
Wait,
got-
where's Mike Larkin? You didn't say it. Say it, Mike. Come on, say it.
If they're not using EAT, they're gonna be invisible anyway.
How
There you
soon?
go.
How soon?
So what do you think about Dealer Rater and Car Gurus with all this like great deal, good deal stuff? What did you think on that? You think that's dead in the water?
I don't think it's set in the water because people live by perception and they look by images. You know, Christian could probably tell you better than anybody because he's on the floor working with people. It still comes down, and same thing with Larry. It still comes down to that human touch. When you got a good, better, best that's validating something, people just want to know that they're getting a good deal. So if you can't tell them that, then they're going to use these other tools. I mean, back in the day, Pure Cars, you know, came to all of our dealerships like 15 years ago, and they had a good, better, best thing they would put on there before they were a pay-per-click company. And then everybody else started adopting it, you know, but the problem is, you know, does it work right for your store? You know, when you look at the Car Gurus thing, and you look at the KBB thing and the Dealer Rater thing or whatever it is that's rating that car, it doesn't work at every store in every market always. So it's not always the best thing they have on there, but from a transparency standpoint, I think any other validation point that we're visually seeing is great because that's why they're reaching out to AI is they want some type of validation point. They want you to give them some information. And Rhonda, I owe you some money. The last time I was in here, I was in a swearing mood, man.
You was banging it out.
I was gonna say, you need 2 jars.
Yeah,
I was F-bombing.
and I could use the money, so hook me up, please.
Definitely.
Gary. Gary Selman,
Yes, sir.
how's the radio in your hybrid? What's that?
It's broken.
It's broken. Oh my God.
And it needs the, and
That's
they, and
That's
they
the
need to,
diagnosis, right? It's broken.
and they need to rip the whole dash apart to get
Of
to a
course.
module that controls that. And they gotta take out the windshield. Now,
What?
maybe,
The windshield.
yeah, look it. I think like that I bought a Mach-E and every Ford dealer looks at those as like, oh, please don't bring it to our shop. We don't want it. We don't want it.
We don't want to
near us.
take it apart. We don't want to look
I
at it.
couldn't- I
Drive
I
on
had to
by.
I had to buy it out myself
No.
because I couldn't put a deal together. I was so upside down, and it's like so I just kept it. And yeah, no, I'm when I get a chance, I'm gonna find a Ford district manager, and boy, are they gonna get an earful. They're gonna get an email. They're gonna get a whole bombardment of, you know, this was an experiment that didn't go well.
No problem, Gary. Next time we take a road trip, we'll just sing.
Well, I was just the service advisor said, "Hey, I fried my, I don't know." He had like an Apple Play. He goes, "I got my phone with the speaker, and that's how I'm like, thanks."
Yeah,
So that's what it is. I've been listening to my phone, but then the phone connects to the car, and then it can't get the voice on because I can't turn the voice on because the button's not working.
We've come a long way from Henry Ford being told they can have any color they want as
As long as
black.
it's black.
Yeah, a little too many options.
yeah.
Too many choices.
So it's yeah, no, it's hysterical. It is.
Well, we'll just turn it to Larry Feldman's group. And we can listen to him sing.
You won't be bored, brother. You know, I was reminded how important it is to be human. I did a job at a dealership, and it was an astonishingly successful job that they managed to turn into an astonishing failure. It worked out okay for me because they paid me to come back and undo the damage. And basically, I had a bunch of people that were frothing at the mouth to get hired, and much fewer got hired than possible. So I did a little tiny bit of research, not complicated for anybody on this panel, and it took a long time for them to get a hold of these people. I don't think anybody understands how important it is to be expeditious, to be fast. So when I did it this week, I got a whole bunch of folks excited again. I reached out to all of them myself, and all of a sudden I got 9 people in play. I said it earlier, David, because you pulled me into that podcast. Thank you. AI is a fabulous tool, but when it becomes a crutch, you're in trouble. You need to use it to augment, to use information, maybe to help you turn a long speech into a short, more focused speech. But we can't lose the human touch, because it's like you said earlier, David. It's as though we don't have a V8 in a Jeep. It has to be something that can help us be more effective, not something that's going to replace us, because that's a ridiculous fallacy. You're not going to replace humans, and the attempts they make to do them are a pain in the ass. Christian, have you? I've had every kind of electronic thing thrown at me in the past weeks. I've gone into places to order food a specific way, and there was no human. It was a machine that refused to acknowledge what I wanted. I had to reach out to somebody for something. I got 4 prompts and I got hung up on. I just think we need a little bit of humanity.
Don't get me started there, because I ordered Portillo's for lunch after I left the Patrick Auto Group today. I go across the street or down the block, and I went to Portillo's and they had a touch screen there. And I'm like, I haven't walked inside the Portillo's in a long time, but when did they get a touch screen? So I'm trying to order a jumbo dog, right? So I finally get that done, but I wanted no tomatoes on it. And I couldn't figure out a way. I sat there for 5 minutes trying to order a damn jumbo dog without tomatoes on it. I finally just gave up and said, you know what, I'll just take them off. It's okay.
Hold on, we've got Mike Larkin confused. Mike, we're talking about EAT, not EAT.
It's okay. This was eat for me because I'm a chubby guy.
With no tomatoes.
That's like going to the International House of Pancakes saying, I want breakfast, but I don't want pancakes.
Hey, I don't like tomatoes.
Whoa,
Pancakes come with everything. What are you talking about? That's the name of the place.
Ian, I'm not being a smart aleck, but you know how people veer off? The classic example is Classic Coke. I'm a Coca-Cola addict, and these morons decided a couple decades ago to make the drink taste like Pepsi, and they just destroyed their brand. Obviously, it bounced back.
Yeah.
But I'm laughing because, like a lot of people that are on the road, from my musician days when we used to play till 2 a.m, we don't do that too frequently. We used to always go to IHOP, and it was pancakes. But about a year and a half ago, they came out with a campaign advertising their hamburgers. Remember, Rhonda?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were gonna switch. They came and left really fast.
Yeah, it's because
They wanted to expand the menu to bring more people in.
Expanding is always good, as long as you don't forget your core base and your core people. David, before you jumped on, we were talking about the lack of service retention. I did a little 2-minute video. I think Rhonda threw it all over the place. Why should I have to be telling people that it should be mandatory when you're showing a car to go back to service and to say, if I'm lucky enough to earn your business, these are the nice folks going to be working on your car. They're super qualified. They're really nice. By the way, our oil changes and tire prices are the same on the street, but you never void your warranty because we use factory parts from an authorized dealer. I mean, that's kind of like, not sticking a pen in your eye. This shouldn't be something that you need Larry Feldman to tell you.
You have to sell yourself, right? You have to sell the product, but you also have to sell the store. I mean, those are the 3 golden rules that my grandfather taught me, and I was a service writer for him then, and he had taught me that. Because you got to sell yourself. They have to trust you, and you have to build that. You have to just counsel people. You have to guide them. He goes, as long as you can do that, and you got their trust, you're golden. And, I think that's why so many times people miss that in service to sales. And we talked about this in David Sparks' show today, and we've talked a bunch of times. But it's just like, you have a service writer who already has the medical records on that car. They're already diagnosed that they're a trusted person. So when they give you a layup in the sales department with a customer that may want to trade out of it today, that is them just doing their job at the highest level possible. That's an all hands on deck. This is a customer of ours in our shop that wants to buy this. This isn't a maybe, this is a now thing. And if you just treat them right and assume the sale, so many of those sales just happen all the time. And I watched Napleton do this 20 years ago with their VIP concierge program. And those service writers were compensated well for it. But the TO process to the to the VIP department, let's put it that way, was amazing. And when the salesman got the deal finally, it was pretty much all just, hey, let me show you the car. Great, let me write it up. I don't know what happened to us when it comes to just being nice to people and guiding them. But I think sometimes the silo stuff that happens between service and sales doesn't ever
this,
happen to-
David, it was this and social media.
Yeah.
You know, listen, I believe like the military, an overwhelming force. And I try to set up 40 or 50 interviews everywhere I go. That's why you folks see the pictures that Rhonda posts. There's 20 people, 25, 19 in every damn class, not one or two. But it astonishes me how many people apply and either don't answer a phone or respond to a text or an email or say they're coming and don't show up. And my director of operations, Roseanne, is awesome, but she gets frustrated. I said, Ro, it used to be if you wanted to get a job, you put on your best dress, your best suit, you look great, you went in and you interviewed. But all you have to do now is hit a button. So between that and the crankiness on the internet and the amount of bitterness and insanity, we've really developed a world of stupid, grumpy people. I don't mean to. They're insane.
What happened?
Service writers. You're
there you go.
more involved in service than I am. Are you going to tell me, because you're not a liar, that every service writer is doing a walk around? They're not. And that should be like brushing your teeth in the morning. You're muted, David.
I gave a dealership flying colors on their survey today, which is why I was kind of 2 minutes late to the human side of AI. But they called me though. And I knew the lady. She says, hey, Dave Rozak's Melissa. I said, oh, Melissa. I said, we worked together before. She goes, yeah, I saw your name. I noticed you got a survey from us and you didn't fill it out. And I said, well, I'll tell you why I didn't fill it out. The lady at the desk was excellent. Your AI got me in. I had a bad experience trying to schedule my service car at another dealership right by my house. Said, that's okay. I'll go 10 minutes down the road now to the other Volkswagen store to the guys I don't like, and I would take it to you. I said, but the lady that checked me in did an amazing job. Loved it, got me a lift, got me home, called me 45 minutes later, car was done. Excellent. I got there. She said, oh, well, there's no charge because it's covered still under warranty, but this is your last one. I said, oh, that's great. So that being said, it was an excellent experience. But when I read the survey, the reason I didn't fill it out, because it asked me, did you get a video inspection of the car? And it wasn't true. I never got a video inspection of the car. Now I have 32,000 miles on the car in less than a year and a half. And I'm like, I know that I'm coming close to needing brakes on that car because of all the highway miles that I put on. Right now, I know I could take it to my relative's shop and they'll just do it for me. Sorry about the dog barking. But it just pissed me off because I'm like, God damn it. I don't really want to lie in the survey, but she was so nice to call me. All right, I'm going to bullshit and lie it through, but I'm going to tell her. I said, hey, I'm going to give you great marks, guys. But I got to be honest with you. You didn't do an MPI in the car. All you did is change the freaking oil. You didn't clean the car.
But David,
you didn't walk me to the car.
The problem, well, two things. First of all, the problem is that they didn't do it for you. It's that they didn't do it for a lot of people.
Right.
You know, it's these habits. The second thing is we have a rare appearance by the single best advertising guy in our industry, Joe Jackson. And Joe has to make a lot of money because besides it being a birthday, he was with his daughter, and his daughter is gorgeous, and they're going to want a fancy wedding, and Joe needs the money. So Joe, it's great to see you. I can't give you a better intro than that. Hopefully that was worth that fancy picture you made where I look like Brad Pitt. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing great. I didn't even realize I was off mute. I was on mute, but I'm driving, so somehow I ended up off mute. But awesome.
How long, Joe? How long have you been married?
almost 20 years.
Wow.
Joe, you're
well
always
done.
on mute. Grow up.
Can you imagine? I know. That's why, last year I went to a SoduCon, and I looked up on the board, and it was my anniversary kind of when I was there. And it was like the coming, whatever the next one. And it was like, bang, right at my anniversary. I'm like, uh-oh, that one's going to be a problem. But yeah, that's fine. My wife's happy to get rid of me. So as long as I book 2 years in advance, she wants me to go next year too, for sure. So yeah, but yeah, everything is fantastic. I'm enjoying the conversation.
Joe, all kidding aside, if anybody does know, Joe's advertising skills are the best. He might be the nicest, most helpful guy in our industry, period. But let me ask you a question, a more of a technical question. I'm all over the place, and I mentioned earlier that I'm not hearing anybody rave about their business. It seems like everybody's a little down, a little stymied, a little stuck with the fact that 800 or 900, it's tough on people. Sandy Zanino was on earlier. She said people are even neglecting service because they just don't have enough available cash. Joe, you're everywhere and you touch base with so many people. Are you kind of in that corner with us? You're seeing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I hear, different things. It seems like last month, the end of the month, the last couple of days, people rallied and they were a little happier. So I'm hoping that happens this month. But yeah, it's kind of, it is kind of strange. Guys are like, even this month, I'm off to probably the slowest start personally that I've had in I don't know how long. And it's just like at the very end of the day, I got a big approval, and I'm hoping that tomorrow, guys start to wake up. It just seems like they're waking up a little bit later and later into the next month, where I try to cycle where we get them set up for the next month before, almost before the month even starts.
Let me give you a tip. You're an advertiser and you're a brilliant one. So you have access to printing materials. What you need to do is print a calendar, and every day of the month says that it's the last day of the month. That'll get them off the bus.
Yeah, I'm gonna try it. I'll report back next week. But yeah, it's but I'm seeing a lot of that. I hear a lot of reasons why that they're not, some legitimate. Some it's kind of like, it seems like their whole business, like I was talking, I've been leaning into service a lot. And one guy, he can't even get his cars through Recon, quick enough. He's not really looking for more service business. It just seems like some of the reasons people are not really looking for, to do more is, I don't have enough technicians, yet they're still twiddling their thumbs, and I don't know which it really is. Sometimes I can't make sense of it. But yeah,
if they don't have enough text, there's this Larry Feldman guy.
Yeah,
he's a little shy, but I've heard he can help anybody with anything. I figured I'd mention this one.
I always mention it to him. I promise you that. You gotta go run inside. I just dropped my photo.
No problem. While he's running and catching his breath, we haven't heard from my good and great friend Christian Youngren, other than the fact that his shoulder's better. Christian, what are you seeing out there, my brother?
I'm seeing kind of what you guys are as well. Ford dealers are whining a little bit about the fact that they don't have cars anymore, but I mean, neither does Chevy and a lot of them. I did hear what Gary had said. I've been working with a Ford dealer that said that they're being told they're not going to see as many vehicles, so that's never a fun thing. I mentioned last week the Chevy dealers, and you guys had kind of told me, because of tariffs and whatnot in Mexico and plants, that's why some of these Chevy dealers are down a little bit with inventory. So interestingly enough, though, I see everybody off a little, but attitudes seem to be pretty decent. I've still got people, paying and buying things and buying advertising and doing those types of things. The other thing I would make a note of is, I agree with you guys as well about this. Why wouldn't you do certain things as a salesperson or as a service advisor? It always blew my mind. I mean, why wouldn't, I intrinsically wanted to go on a demonstration drive because I knew the value of that. I wanted to go with them. So I guess it's just hard sometimes to understand why, even if your manager would let you not do one, why you still wouldn't, as a salesperson, want to do one, or the same thing with, a service advisor not wanting to do their initial walk around. And then as far as like not ending up in service and not building value there, it's just, that's a shame because obviously it can add more value. You can introduce the warranty. It's a great spot to start introducing the warranty. I like to call it a peace of mind package. The other guy's got a warranty. We got a peace of mind package. Now I can go through it with you. And then last but not least, you get to introduce variable pricing. So, I mean, it's just silly not to, but isn't it interesting how these points where manager, on the lot during the meet and greet, how well is that always getting done? Because there was not a manager that were holding hands. It's when the manager's not there holding the hands, it's interesting because you just aren't 100% sure how well things are being done. So anyway.
Christian, you still have people pulling up on a lot and one of two things happen. Either you hear, what do they want? Well, maybe they're here to buy a car for a car dealership, or three idiots who consider themselves veterans decide, yeah, he ain't a buyer, send the new guy out. We still have a defeatist mentality, and a lot of us still have a short-term mentality. I ain't thinking short term. I always thought long term. I always wanted to get all your friends, family, and the guy to cut your hair and to buy a car. This is definitely an exponential growth business, but not if you're an idiot. And a lot of us continue to act like idiots. I mean, everybody on this program will agree the 70% loss of retention after the warranty fades is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You would think at that point, right? If you had 70% of people in a hospital that died, somebody would say, we got an infectious problem with the medicines. Let's switch something up. At some point, we have to address our own industry and try to fix it. Physician, heal thyself.
The one thing I've been in a lot of stores recently in the greater Hartford market, and what I find amazing is they haven't progressed. Is they're still doing the same things that they've been doing for 40, 30 years. They have a customer, they're standing at the desk, the guy behind the sales manager is fiddling with numbers, and it's like there's technology that you could have embedded yourselves for free, and you would have been better than what you're doing right now. I mean, there's such technology, yet they're still doing the old school. It's just, that's where the technology, I mean, we always know that the car industry is 10 years behind, but boy, it's time that they can easily capture so much business. I mean, we in the service drive and lost F&I and follow up and all the things that we talk about all the time.
Gary, they're not historians. You've all heard me say this quote, forgive me, but it's always going to be pertinent. It sounds like a Steve Jobs quote, but Ben Franklin said it in the 1760s. When you're finished changing, you're finished. We need to be constantly evolving and getting better, because if you don't go forward, you don't stay still. I think you go backwards.
You go backwards. And now, as they're saying with AI, if you do nothing, it's worse. Is that I mean, it's just if you do nothing, it's worse.
I agree. Hey, Gary, no decision is a decision. You know what I mean? No decision is a decision, really.
To make no decisions. Hey, you know who we haven't heard from? Rhonda. And Rhonda is getting force-fed everything possible. I'm constantly hitting her up with stuff, as is Ian. David Rosick is showing us how to change the world through better use of video. Rhonda, what are you seeing and what are you thinking? Because I think the outer society that you deal with reflects what's going on with the auto society. It's the mute button. Go ahead, Rhonda.
Yeah, I found it. Thank you. I'm not seeing the most confident consumer economy. That's for sure. It's been worse. A lot of the people I deal with are quite busy tradespeople. They will make money forever because AI will never take their job, for starters. But they're not complaining. But the realtors are not happy necessarily. The inventory is not there for them. The lawyers, the financial people, they feel a little bit of a slowdown. And especially the travel agents are not happy either. And that's after we're getting a cruise line at the Philadelphia port, which is like incredibly exciting. But they're still not getting the kind of business they think. I think people are, like Sandy said, the unknown, the insecurity, the world right now is affecting people on a day-to-day basis. Even if they're financially fine, it's nerve-wracking watching what's happening. So that's the consumer confidence level. That's it actually came in really good this month, surprisingly. But the people I'm seeing are like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I want to spend the money right now.
I think that's common. Ian, we're at 8. Would you like to close this out, my good, great friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got to, you can't expect things to turn around by themselves. If you're not getting the results that you should be getting, you need to look for ways to get those results. And I think, as with anything in sales or in business, there's always opportunity if you change the way you look at things. If you're not looking at leasing every single customer and figuring out a way to do that, if you're not working the service drive and creating award-winning experiences, because you're going to need that revenue. And if you're not having discussions about this every day and holding people's feet to the fire, you're going to get poor results. It's not 5 years ago. It's not 2 years ago. It's today. And you've got to make a compelling reason as to why people should do business with you. If you're not doing that, someone else will. That's pretty much the way I look at it.
Love it. Hey, gentlemen, and everybody, we appreciate you so much for popping in. We value you. We value your opinions. And we hope to see you next Wednesday. And thank you all so much.
And congratulations on your 250th anniversary.
Thank you kindly, sir.
Thanks. We're not there yet.
Well, if you want some humor in your life, you can watch King Charles try to dance that line between "we love it" and "we hate it" in Congress.
He's actually a funny guy, very surprisingly.
It was interesting.
He did a nice job.
It was interesting.
Nice job.
Yeah.
Guys, everybody stay healthy. Thank you all so much.
Yep.
Night, everybody.
Ciao.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you for helping the industry get better today live.